Amendment by Pursuit.
The chair recognizes Mr. Pursuit to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment adds $40 million to the Alternatives to Abortion program each year of the upcoming biennium. The program funds a network of pregnancy centers, adoption agencies, and maternity homes across the state that provide social services for expecting and new parents in Texas. These providers have seen a 43% increase in demand for services over the last year, and they'll desperately need this significant increase in funding to keep up with demand during this biennium. This amendment will ensure that those social services providers on the front lines do not have to stop their life-saving and life-affirming services throughout the 2024 to 2025 biennium. It's not enough that we ensure Texas is abortion-free. We must make sure that Texas is truly pro-life, and this amendment is one way to do that. Move adoption.
Mrs. Weiner, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for some questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
I will.
The gentleman yields.
Representative Vasut, are you aware that providers at these clinics are not required to be medically certified?
The program does not provide medical services. It's a social services program, so medical certification is not required for those types of services.
So in that case, since you're aware these are not necessarily medical services, are you aware that there are no privacy protections in place for people who choose to visit these facilities?
I would disagree with that contention. I believe that to the extent you have a medical provider or a medically provided service, you have HIPAA protections, but I would disagree that the privacy of those that visit these facilities is not protected.
I'm a little confused, Representative Vasut. I believe we just acknowledged that these were not medical services and mostly social services. So are there any privacy protections in place for somebody visiting these facilities and receiving any social services, or could their information potentially be released?
I'm not aware of anyone's private information being released by these services.
Are you aware of any protections in law to make sure that people's private details, potentially about their pregnancy status or relationships or dynamics with their other children, are you aware of any protections in law for those women?
I am aware that there are rigorous contracting requirements that HHSC puts in place. I'm not aware of the specifics about the context of the privacy protections that are put in there. But again, I'm not aware of anyone's privacy interests being violated by these services.
Are you aware that HHSC actually had to pull the contract for one of these organizations, the Heidi Group, for failure to comply?
My understanding of the pulling of that funding is that it was from a separate program as opposed to this. That's my rough understanding, but I'm not familiar with the Heidi Group otherwise.
Why should this body be investing more funds in a program that has very little accountability and is not shown to actually help women and families when we have good programs and good options, like funding our social support networks that are already in place through Medicaid, assistance for needy families? Why should we be funding these private nonprofits instead of our own institutions that actually work to provide help for families?
Because these programs provide critical services to women in need. They've provided services to more than 100,000 women in this state. These are great programs, and I disagree with your characterization on the back end, but I'm answering your question that you asked first.
Representative Vasut, what is the name of this program again?
Say that again, I apologize.
What is the name of this program again, Representative Vasut?
This is the Alternatives to Abortion program. The program that's in current law is the subject of another bill to rename it. That'll maybe come up at a later time, which we can't discuss for germanous reasons at this time.
I know neither of us were here at the time of the origin of this program, but what was your understanding of the purpose of this program when it was begun?
I would have to defer to those that were here back in 2005 at precisely what they intended for this program, but I think at a rough level, it was to provide resources for young families, for mothers, to be able to aid them with pregnancy.
My understanding of this program was that it was to try and funnel women into facilities where they may be talked out of having an abortion. Is abortion legal in Texas anymore, Representative Vasut?
Elective abortion is not legal in Texas anymore.
So why do we still need to be funding a program called Alternatives to Abortion when abortion is banned in the cases of rape, incest, and other situations here in Texas?
Great question. Let me tell you why. I'm on the board of a pregnancy help center. Now, we're not in this program, but we provide a similar service. The need since 2022 has only increased And the services that are provided are not just narrowly focused on preventing abortion, they're to help families. And these programs provide a great service in that regard. And the demand has only increased over the last year. So regardless of whether abortion is legal or not, we still need to be on the front lines of providing help for those that are young, expectant mothers or otherwise.
The facility you're on the board for, does it have any religious affiliation?
I apologize. Could you ask that question one more time?
The facility you're on the board for, does it have any religious affiliation?
It does, which is why it doesn't get money from this program, because religious counseling it cannot be funded by this program. And I've also been advised, to your earlier question, that A2A programs have to comply with HIPAA.
Have to comply with what?
HIPAA. Just wanted to make sure that the record was clear.
As we discussed earlier, HIPAA is only relevant to the medical portion of the services, correct?
Per their HSC contracts, they have to follow HIPAA. Regardless of whether or not medical services are being provided, the same privacy protections that are in HIPAA have to be mandated on these programs.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that interpretation, but I thank you for trying to find me an answer on that.
You bet.
So how do we make sure we actually provide services available to everybody, not just the folks who are going to walk into a facility like this?
Well, the services that are funded through this program include not only those that go to, say, a pregnancy resource clinic, but also adoption programs, counseling programs, and otherwise. They're available throughout the state of Texas. There's hundreds of clinics and programs available. They serve over 100,000 Texans all across the state of Texas.
Yeah. Mr. Vasut, what challenges do you hear from women who are hoping to have families?
Well, a few things. Depending on financial resources, it may be, help with getting diapers and formula. Those are things that my center provides. It may be they need a crib or car seat. My mother-in-law teaches a car seat class at our Pregnancy Help Center. People that, are first-time parents may not be well-versed on the safety standards for having toddlers and babies in car seats. And so we provide that service to them, and then we give them a car seat, and we go through that class with them. There's tons of things that are done that provide those needed, whether it's advice, counseling, monetary resources, or again, the physical resources like diapers and formulas. These programs provide all of that.
The biggest challenges I hear are health care and child care. Does this amendment do anything to provide more prenatal and postnatal health care services to pregnant women?
This amendment provides additional funding to a critical program that provides resources to expectant and current young mothers, resources that they need, they desperately need, and that it provides. I think that to the extent you're talking about, a particular type of medical procedure or otherwise, it doesn't go maybe into that level of detail, but just because, I think you're narrowly focusing on what young mothers need, as opposed to the broad panoply of needs that they have. And I think this program reaches a lot of needs, not just a narrow class.
Does anything in this amendment give access to child care for working mothers, especially when their children are 3, 4, 5, once they're past that early period?
The core of this program is to help people. Whether or not the program provides every single need, I think is irrelevant. So does it provide paid child care? I'm not aware of that. I'm not advised on that. But just because it does? I'm glad that I have Chair Click here to tell me that it does. So maternity homes as well. I think the point that I'm trying to make in response to your question is, regardless of what class of care you're trying to focus on, I think that this program provides needed care. And that what it does or does not provide is irrelevant to, I think the key issue is the programs that exist that are funded under this fund are critical to young families in Texas. They're in demand. Demand is growing, and we need to make sure that we meet it.
Mr. Vasut, are you aware that some women have reported that when they've tried to attend some of the facilities included in this program, that they were turned away when they said they were not considering abortion?
I'm not advised.
Well, Mr. Vasut, before you come out here and push an amendment for this, I would advise you to do deeper research and instead support something that will help Texas families actually be successful?
What I am advised on is that this program works.
Mr. Speaker,
The gentleman's time has expired.
will the gentleman yield?
The
Move to
gentleman's time
extend.
has expired.
Move to extend.
Is there objection to extension? Chair hears none. The gentleman's time is extended. Ms.
Will the
Flores, for
gentleman
what
yield?
purpose?
I will.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Representative, you realize that there was in the Appropriations Act there is 120 million in GR, which is an increase of 20.3 million from last biennium. Do you not?
I am aware of that, and that's not enough based off of the need that has arisen in this program over the last year. It's up 43%.
Well, I would argue that. Can you delineate which other programs you are going to be removing money from that will be hurt, that you might hurt other people? Do you have any specifics where you are taking the money from other
I do
programs?
not. This is left up to the conference committee to fund.
Well, I would argue that you need to specify, if you are taking this amount of money, that you need to specify the amount of money that's being taken from other programs.
I'm not aware of any intention by the conference committee to reduce funding to any other healthcare program in this state to fund this increase, and I trust their judgment about where they source the money from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, would the gentleman yield?
Ms. Howard, does the gentleman yield?
The gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you, Representative Basout. I have a bunch of questions here, but I'm not sure if I'm going to ask all of these questions. I'm really interested in where you're getting your information about the increased need and what specifically that need is. If you can explain that to me.
My understanding is that there's been a 43% increase in demand for the programs that are currently funded by A2A.
I'm sorry, a what percent increase?
43%.
A
In the last year.
43% increase in the
Last year.
in the need for the services that this program provides. Is that what you're saying?
In the demand for services that this program provides. Yes, ma'am.
Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
That is correct.
Because you're saying, I assume, or I'm asking you, or you're saying that because there's an increased need now that there are more people that are going to be having to carry their pregnancies or unplanned pregnancies to term?
There
Is
are
that
more
correct?
individuals that are seeking out these services for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know the details of their motivations, but they're there. The demand is there. The need is there, and it's going to be met. I liked your bill that we funded in order to provide a tax exemption for diapers. You know, my pregnancy center gets those donated, and those donations are going to increase because of that. Where there is a need, we need to meet the need, and I think that this amendment does that.
Are you aware of what the specific services are that are being provided that have resulted in what you're claiming to be a 43% increase, or do you know specifically what those are?
I do not have that broken down based off of each individual program, each individual service type. I just know on the broad basis, the demand over the last year is about a 43% increase.
And I'm sorry I couldn't hear all the questions that were heard earlier. Do you understand that the Alternatives to Abortion program does not provide any health care services, correct?
I would disagree with that. I think healthcare is far beyond perhaps the way that you would define it. I think it provides much needed healthcare services to women in this state.
Did you know that the Health and Human Services contract specifically says that they cannot provide health care services? Did you know that?
I believe that you may be conflating the terms healthcare with medical treatment and by a licensed physician or otherwise. I disagree with the characterization that the counseling, the support services, and the resources are not aiding the health and well-being of mothers in Texas.
I would suggest to you that I agree that there's social determinants of health that go beyond medical care, but did you know that they do not provide any medical care?
I mean, if you want to amend it to expand the scope of services, I'm happy to evaluate that, but I'm not advised right now about any medical services that are provided.
Is from the writer, it does not allow, my understanding from the agency is they're not allowed to provide medical services, but The fact is, you're suggesting that there's an increased need for these social services, are you not? Is that what you're suggesting?
I apologize. Could you say the last part of your question again?
You're suggesting there's an increased need for social service supports.
Whether or not it's the particular characterization of the services needed, again, I don't have it broken down, but of all the services that this program provides, the demand for those services has increased approximately 43% in the last year.
And are you've mentioned counseling. Are you aware of what the services are that are provided? And for instance, the percentage of the services that are going to pamphlets?
There's reporting requirements, there's audit requirements, and things that you can access to, I believe, ascertain that detailed information. General categories, would be, for example, parenting classes, job skills training, diapers, and otherwise. There's a wide variety. As far as the specific data, we could happy to pull that from the reports. I mean, the program is audited.
The program is audited. In what way is it audited?
My understanding is that there's an audit requirement that's governed by, it should be HHSC.
I'm sorry?
It should be HHSC that has an auditing requirement that's put in place under A133 audit.
Are you aware of the fact that there are 4 contractors and 100 some odd subcontractors, but that the actual oversight is by those contractors without HHSC's involvement, other than to say they have to have a process? There's no specifics about it. Did you know that?
I'm advised that there's reports that are brought up to the Legislative Budget Board and to our other House committees to provide requisite oversight, particularly what the terms of the contracts are. I don't have them in front of me, so I'm unable to answer those.
Do you have the terms of the contract there?
I do not.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, then I missed exactly what you were saying there. The fact is, did you know that HHSC does not directly oversee any of these programs? They have 4 contractors. Did you know that? And that the contractors
they have
provide
4 contractors. They're required by HHSC to submit monthly reports.
Do you know what's in those reports?
Exactly what the contents are or those, we can pull them, but I don't have them in front of me right now to be able to advise you the exact line by line of everything that's recorded.
Okay. The issue here, did you know, the issue here for some of us anyway, is that there are substantial needs, as you mentioned, I believe, for providing support services to parents and families. Do you have any kind of a breakdown that would suggest to you that the amount that's being spent on this is actually covering the things that we would expect to be covered, and that that's actually the best use of these dollars for those who are experiencing pregnancies when they have the need for healthcare interventions also at the same time? Do you have any idea of how you could compare how these dollars are effectively being spent?
I know that these dollars are serving over 100,000 people in this state. In fiscal year 2022 alone, for example, it's over 113,125 unduplicated clients. I don't have the exact data on what kind of service each client got, but you're helping more than 100,000 people in the state, primarily women, with their issues related to pregnancy.
Well, actually, do you see in that breakdown the ages and the types of clients that are being served? Are you aware of what the eligibility is for this program?
The eligibility includes mothers. I'm not aware of any age requirement. I don't have an age breakdown on the services that are provided. So I can't tell you whether or not 10% or 18 to 20 or 20% or otherwise. I don't have that data broken down.
I believe it's in the report, but do you know who qualifies for this program? Do you know that it's not just about women who are pregnant?
My understanding is that it includes not only women that are pregnant, but certain family members. There's a bill. The reason why I have the confusion a little bit, because I've been deep in studying SB 24, which is going to be the one that changes some of these. And the eligibility requirements there and exactly how they relate to the A2A program, I mean, it's going to be the successor, are a little unclear to me, but it's certainly moms, it's certainly dads, immediate family members, those who have adopted individuals, parents, etc.
So if you look at the report, can you see the breakdown of the demographics of the ages of those being served and of whether it's male or female?
I do not have demographic data in
Okay.
front of me at this time.
So what you were saying, you just read off to me some of the eligibility. So you're saying it's it's for those that adopt children, correct?
That is my understanding.
And it can be adopting children of any age. Is that not correct as well?
I'm not sure on the specifics on that.
The gentleman's time has expired. Does anyone wish to speak for, against, or on the amendment? The question occurs on the adoption of the amendment. A record vote has been requested by Mr. Vasut. A record vote is granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Leach voting aye. Show Mr. Toth voting aye. Show Ms. Isaac voting aye. Show Mr. Jatan voting aye. Show Mr. Harrison voting aye. Show Mr. Romero voting nay. Show Ms. Criado Niave voting nay. Have all voted? There being 88 ayes, 59 nays, the amendment is adopted.